Hi, my name is Parisa Kazra. My student ID is 0029640013. My school is Georgetown District High School, and this is my first CAS reflection activity. So, I'm making this video just to, explain the activity I did, the category it falls under, and just talk about the event itself. So, the activity I'm going to talk about is the Vow of Silence in November of 2011, so just this past November. Basically, what happened is I chose to take the vow of silence for 24 hours under obviously my service hours. The vow of silence was done under Free the Children, obviously, and Me Too We. So, how I found out about this event, Craig Heelberger's always been a huge idol of mine. I've always looked up to him. I've always done every Free the Children charity there is, really. And this just seemed like the perfect one to use for CAS hours. So what happened is from midnight to midnight the next day, I was completely silent. I didn't text, I didn't talk, I didn't write notes, no email, no social medias like Facebook or Twitter, Tumblr, none of that. I did this to, first of all, a couple of reasons. First of all, to raise awareness for the children in third world countries who are not as privileged as I am in Canada. In my personal opinion, it's our duty to do that because they don't have the opportunity to help themselves. Saying no because they don't want to work isn't an option. Oftentimes, girls are forced into being sex slaves. Boys are forced into going to work to make money for their families because their families can't afford them. And as awful as it is, a lot of the time it's the parents that have to sell their kids. And that's not necessarily an option that they want, but it's something that's always just been there because there's no other way to get money. So for me, it was really important to get the word out there that, you can help and you can stop this, and it's not the only option. And, that in itself means a lot to me, to stop something like this and stop the girls from being sex slaves and the boys from having to work under terrible conditions with dirty needles and spreading germs and AIDS and working for ridiculously low amounts. The other reason I did this, the other thing this did was I raised money. So I printed off pledges off the Me Too We site, and throughout the day, I personally asked, but I'd show people the piece of paper and see if they'd like to pledge. I'd already informed people a couple days in advance in my IB class, obviously, but I didn't necessarily have a chance to tell everyone in other classes or, other after-school activities or whatever. So I brought that out, and that was technically a form of communication, but it was the only form of communication, and it was done in order to get the pledges. So in total, I raised $122 for Free the Children through my Vow of Silence. I got 13 pledges, and it was absolutely incredible. So, did it proceed as anticipated? I think so. I think it definitely proceeded as anticipated. I didn't really expect anything to go wrong, really. I mean, for me, it was just stay silent, get pledges, and stay silent for, longer. One challenge I did have was I teach karate, so for me it was a bit difficult to have to teach, and I couldn't get the day off because that was my specific day. So what I ended up doing for teaching is I'd point to one student and I'd have them start the warm-ups, and I'd point to the next and I'd have them do whatever activity that they needed to do. So that way, technically, I was more of a watcher, and if I saw anything wrong amongst the kids, I'd go and I'd fix their punch or I'd fix the position of whatever, and I'd help them out through that. But it was definitely as I anticipated. I didn't talk a single time. I never broke my vow. I guess technically I did use facial expressions and like the sign with my pledges, and I fix the punches and I point to people and stuff. But I feel like in our society, it's very difficult to be completely silent in every way possible. And of course, that's the whole point of the vow, is to express how silenced they are in both the literal and metaphorical way. Because physically, obviously, they're silent. They can't talk at work. They can't say no. They just do as they're told. But also in the metaphorical way that, they have no voice. And that's the interesting aspect of this. And this is why I love For the Children so much, because it focuses on kids helping kids. And, they literally have zero voice, these kids. So, when you can't make facial expressions, that shows your friend how you're feeling. And for me, that's a very difficult thing to do because I talk a lot with my emotions. I talk a lot with, my facial expressions, my hands, obviously. So for me, that was a very difficult thing, but I believe I was very successful in it. So what did I learn? Wow. Well, I learned how difficult it is to stay silent. Obviously, I'm a very vocal person. I'm very extroverted. I love to speak. I love to talk. For me to have to be silent was rather difficult. There were some points where someone would say something and I'd be like, oh, I disagree. I wanna voice my opinion. I disagree, but I couldn't do that. Obviously, I had to keep my vow. So a lot of the time, I'd be sitting there and I'd be like, I will remain silent. I will remain silent. And there were points where I really wanted to say what I felt like I needed to say, but I endeavored through that, and I didn't do that because of obviously my vow. So who benefited, sorry. Obviously there's the money that I raised, $122, which I checked off it going to anything that needs the most help as opposed to a specific charity, because in my opinion, it doesn't matter who I'm helping, it matters that I'm helping, and that's what matters to me. So I just checked off most need under who and what program and whatever under Free the Children. And then obviously I think I personally benefited too. I learned how difficult it is to remain silent. I already talked about that. But I think my class even sort of benefited because they're used to me always being out there, being loud, and myself, and all of a sudden, I'm silent and I don't talk and I just sit there like that all day, no words. And for them, that was a kind of bizarre thing to see from me, actually. One of my teachers who donated said that it was the weirdest sight he'd seen all year was me being quiet. So obviously that was definitely something I think others benefited from. They realized that anyone can do, and I think when you see someone do something like that, it gives you the courage to do it yourself. And I know that's how I got started because I didn't know about it the first year. This is my third year doing the vow. I didn't know about it my first year, and I just got to school and all these people were quiet. And at first I wondered why, and I didn't really understand, but as you're exposed to it, you realize the importance of it, and I think just spreading that awareness is incredibly important in our society today. If I could start over, how would I improve this? Wow. Well, I don't think I'd change anything about this experience. This is my third year doing it, so I do have a bit, but I've never been fully successful in it before, which is why I chose to count this one specifically as CAS. The other 2 years, I think the first year, I think I saw something and I turned my friend and I was like, oh wow, and that's when my vow was broken, and I felt actually so horrible about it. Last year I did it, and I think, actually this is an awful way to end the vow, but I think there was an ice cream truck and I really wanted ice cream or something along those lines, so I couldn't keep the vow. This year, however, I was totally successful and I was completely silent for the 24 hours, and I'm really proud of myself for that. So I think that I wouldn't change a thing. I think this is the most I've grown from it, and every year I've done it, every year I've grown from it, so it's been absolutely incredible. So basically that's what happened. The Vow of Silence was obviously done in the name of Free the Children, and I had an incredible time, and I think I'm going to do it again, and I'd love to get more of the word out for Free the Children, Meet a We, obviously all of that. So thank you.